Happy Virgo season! Isn't she a beauty? Hello everyone, my name is Lilith and today we will be just having a chit chat where I will be sharing my high school art portfolio versus my RISD graduation portfolio. I fear, oh god. Okay, I don't really know what to say. I mean, it's been a good 5 years since I even looked at this portfolio. I just feel kind of shocked because I've come so far. At the time, I was advised to put my figure drawings at the very beginning of my portfolio just because I was told that the board of instructors reviewing these portfolios want to see that the applicant has practiced with a live model. But honestly, when I look at these pieces now, I can tell that they're done from a photograph, not from a live model. I'm sure that these instructors who have been in the working field for over, 20 years can also tell that they're from pictures. They keep in mind that you're going to be spending at least 2 semesters, if not 4 semesters, working with live models. So they're not going to be looking at college level life drawings. I feel like at RISD at least, a lot of them had way more concept-based works. A lot of them had short films or collages or a variety of combinations of mixed media that I wasn't even aware of when I was 17. As you can see, the first couple of my pieces from my portfolio are life drawings. For this one, I tried to be a little more abstract because I was considering for a hot minute to apply to the CalArts BFA character animation, which I was not accepted because my portfolio was geared more towards illustration and I didn't include nor did I work on any of the CalArts requirements because I was not fully aware of the difference between illustration and animation at the time when I applied. So for this one, I tried to create a more gestural drawing as opposed to the previous ones, which are longer poses. And then so after the life drawings, I included a couple of different mediums just to show my breadth versus depth. So it's like the breadth is like my capability to work with a variety of mediums. This one was a study of a photograph, I believe. I think it took me 5-6 hours, which is not bad, I think, for a 17-year-old. Definitely not plein air though, but I still can't do plein air. That's definitely something that I look forward to getting better at. After the watercolor, I did the oil painting. I remember after my first sitting, my art studio instructor was like, oh, her head is too far to the right. But at the time, I didn't really see what he was talking about. But then now looking at it, it would be nice if I can move her just a little bit the other way. I mean, I think it's pretty good. The eyes are done well, like the whites. I'm impressed. This is tooting my own horn. This one's done in charcoal. These are all photo studies. I did not do any of this from life. I did not make any drawings from life until my first semester at college. But given the amount of time that I had to work on my portfolio, which was about, I want to say I started the summer of my junior year. So I was 17, 8 months. I had about 8 months to pull together, which is pretty long if you think about it, but I think the way I evaluate time now is very different from high school. This one I was pretty proud of. I thought that I handled the core shadow very well, but as you can see, the reflective light is way too bright. What is going on? But I feel like it captured her presence. It's not bad. This one took me about 10 hours, I want to say, so I was pretty proud of it. Now we are moving on to the creative part of the portfolio. I remember at the time I was pretty obsessed with, I want to say these are watercolor pencils or just watercolor, but it looks like watercolor pencils to me because I also think I did this thing where I utilized a lot of colored pens that were not waterproof and then use water and make it bleed intentionally. So that's how I created these smudgy effects, I would say. I was trying to work with abstract composition, figures of different scale, seemingly arbitrary patterns, motifs, and objects that doesn't necessarily relate to a central story. So kind of like a collage, except I draw every element. I also included text, words, which is still something I do now. So it's interesting that I started doing this a long time ago and I totally forgot. I think I said in my RISD senior portfolio artist statement that words are very important to me. I did try to use my own photographs for most of these. Sometimes I utilized reference images I found on Tumblr back when Tumblr was a thing. So these are my sketchbook entries. I think I included these in CalArts too, I'm not sure. CalArts might have included more figures, but I don't have the sketchbook anymore, unfortunately. I did a bunch of sketchbook layouts or spreads for my Tumblr mutuals. And this one, her username, as you can see here, is Sweetheart, except the heart was in Japanese, and kind of funny. And I think her name was Maria. I drew a lot of figures back then, which is something that has changed from my portfolio now, 5 years later. I do not like to draw people anymore. I don't know why. Maybe I just got sick of drawing them in foundation year or something. But yeah, it'll use a lot of reference photos here. As you can see, I forgot which designer this was, but it was, I saw a picture of a close-up from a runway show from the New York Fashion Week, but I can't name the designer off the top of my head. So yeah, just totally like rip that off. I think the rule of thumb is if it looks 30% like the reference image, like 30% or less, then you will not get sued. Is that what it was? Anyway, copyright is like super complicated. Can't get into it in this video. Oh yeah, this is like one of the few self-portraits I did. I had very short hair back then, but then I cut my hair even shorter for RISD. I remember feeling especially proud of the way I rendered the skeletons here, as well as the water here and the fish. I thought that the water was very realistic. I don't know why I had a heart hanging on a deer's antler. I'm not sure what these elements say about myself. I think I was more interested in the different textures that I got to draw. I think I used a little bit too much color. I'm not sure if you guys know now, I use very little color. So I think maybe I should take some inspiration from this. Find a better balance between the two. My impression of my portfolio, it's like simultaneously foreign and all too familiar at the same time, because I remember as I was making these feeling extremely confident and accomplished, feeling like this is like the best work I've made. I will continue to work like this, like thinking that I will progress in art school with this direction, and then that just totally did not happen. I will show you later. Yeah, I did a lot of figures. You know, honestly, like maybe this is like a wrong, unpopular opinion, but I honestly don't feel like these figure drawings help too much in the portfolio. Like, I mean, it's great to have like one or two, don't get me wrong, but I think I'm not a professional and I'm not on the board that approves applicants to be accepted, so I don't know. But I did get a pretty big merit-based scholarship both times, and my portfolio had over 50% figure drawings. Are they correlated? I'm not sure. I personally don't think so. Maybe it shows that I'm very serious about drawing. I'm not sure. Let us open my portfolio. There we go. Oh, the other thing I want to include in advice is when you are arranging your pieces for your portfolio, depending on what school it is, I believe it was like 15 to 20 pieces for the slide room. Unless you just have a lot of work that are all equally fleshed out. They all look like they got the same amount of labor and attention and focus. Unless you have more than 20 and you have to narrow it down to 20, then fine, have 20 pieces. But usually I feel like it's safer to err on the side of less pieces, because more likely than not, you're going to be grabbing at mediocre works, trying to fill the 20 count, thinking that, oh, if I have more works, then I can show that I draw a lot, right? Or I can show that I have more experience. But putting in work that is not your best work actually will lower your overall impression, because that's telling the reviewer that you assess this as your best work when they can clearly see it's not. So then they would start to underestimate your capabilities, or like they'll start to question, like, why is this amongst all these other great pieces? Like, why is this one here? You don't want them to even have that thought. You just want them to be blown away from like beginning to end. So that's why you have your best pieces, the first one and the last one. you have your most well done, most rendered, most, the wow factors you put in the beginning and the end, and then the ones where it's like not your favorite but you should show it, so maybe like a still life or landscape or figure drawing or portrait or some sort of technical aspect. So for example, in my high school portfolio, I put the watercolor. It's not something that the reviewers will remember me by because there are so many artworks that look like that watercolor painting, but the fact that I can do it when I'm in high school, what can I accomplish with 4 years of rigorous studio training? It's sort of the same concept here, except that now these pieces are grouped by theme, working in series. I also included this piece, which is an in progress, sort of like a somewhat candid shot of my illustration. I think I was doing a study of Nobuyoshi Araki's photographs from Tokyo Lucky Hole. Here is a pencil drawing I did. I was inspired by the Andromeda Galaxy or the Milky Way, but then when I was drawing it, it sort of ended up looking like the ocean. So as you can see, I'm still interested in mixed media. I still have that pen and ink going on, but I've honed in on color, I've honed in on mark making, so each mark is more descriptive and each mark is necessary. The intention of the line is obvious, I would say, compared to, like the bookstore. I started working with salt. I basically would draw this out in pencil, sketch it out in pencil, in all white, and then I would put down a very wet layer of water, and then I would add drops of black acrylic ink. And then as it was drying, I would throw on the salt, and then sort of let the pieces push and pull, like sort of let the ink and the pigments push and pull each other. These two are actually from the same piece. The piece itself is pretty long. I think I can include a full picture over here. See, it's very long. I titled this piece Absolute Being. I did not get to work on it as much as I wanted to. After the watercolors, I showcased a couple of my comics. I did this my senior year fall semester. I was doing an adaptation of a book I really liked by Maggie Nelson called Bluets. The text here is directly from the book. I just sort of visualized I gave her poetry a space to occupy in the real world. And then, this part, I added, you look so different with your hair short. I was trying to allude to a breakup because people tend to cut their hair during breakups. I don't know if that's a thing. I feel like it's a thing. I kind of weaved in a secondary story along with the story told by Nelson in the actual book. In the secondary story, I described this protagonist that was never, like her face was never shown until the last page, and her name was never mentioned. But basically, she had gone through a breakup, and then after she had broken up with her partner, she realized that she was pregnant. So then she had to travel to the city alone to go through with an abortion alone. The unspoken narrative represented by a series of fragmented images. I'm hoping that I can complete this soon. Complete as in, like, I have all the drawings done. I just need to clean up the scans and redo the type, because as you can see here, like, why is there a halo? So, oh my god, you can't even read the words. I'm like dying. Yeah, I can't publish this. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the book, but at one point in like the beginning, I think like the second page or third page, she mentioned like an X on a map. So I used Roman numerals to sort of indicate time passing. The poetry book is all about the color blue, about Nelson's personal experience, her personal heartbreak, and how she was in fact very obsessed with blue. So it's definitely a very, very interesting book. I highly recommend everybody to read it. I own 2 copies. I do not know why, but I have 2. I was inspired by French films when I did this series, which is why they're all black and white. I feel like the composition or the storytelling is similar to, I feel like I'm butchering her name, Agnes Varda. I'll put her name here. I mean, like, not like trying to compare myself to her at all. I'm just saying that she was such a legend, and I'm so just deeply moved and inspired by everything that she did. And yeah, So I would say that my comics definitely have some sort of film influence. Personally, I think it's because of the close-up. The thread is very thin and loose, but the thread tying this all together, it's very nuanced. I do wonder if it is a little too subtle, but I like it. So like, I feel like that's what matters the most. Yes, there's things to improve on, but overall, I'm very proud of myself. My sketchbooks now, compared as opposed to my sketchbooks then, a lot of negative space, a lot of boxes. I came across Aiden Co. during a final crit in 2015. I definitely think her graphic sensibility, the way she arranges things in a two-dimensional space, is super fascinating to me. She also does tattoos in New York, and I really hope that I can get one from her soon. Like, I really want to go get one. I really love to work wet on wet. So I put down a clean layer of water and then I'll just like dip things in with the tip of a brush with acrylic ink. The big difference though, it has to be acrylic ink. I tried with watercolor and gouache and it's just not the same. So for a while I did this and I would even invert it so that it seemed like galaxy or skyscape, like night sky. Here you can see that my mark making has definitely improved my sense of lights and darks, I would say. Instead of relying on color to tell a story, I just rely on the line. But I wonder if that has made me overly dependent on it. I don't think so, I'm not sure. I don't think about it that much. Drawing what I feel like in that moment, like in that day or in that week. This specific page, I was reading A Natural History of the Senses by Diane Ackerman. And then for this one, I believe I was reading or thinking about God Herself. God Herself, The Feminine Roots of Astrology by Geraldine Thorsten. Amazing book, highly recommend, super hard to get my hands on. I have yet to find a second copy anywhere, like not even in a library, so. Oh yeah, this one also, God Herself, I'm thinking about the triple goddess, the moon. Thinking about bluettes, hence the blue. Okay. To wrap this up, overall portfolio advice. So number one would be make sure that you have clean scans and clean reproductions of your pieces. So if you have three-dimensional pieces, make sure they're photographed on a white background or like an even background. Make sure that the resolution is sharp. Just like really basic presentation things to tell the reviewer that you're serious about your pursuit. Number two is arrangement. Arrange your strongest pieces, beginning and the end of the slideshow, with your technical pieces that are strong but easily forgotten because they're very fundamental or rudimentary in the middle. Your still life painting, your landscape painting, you feel like does not speak for who you are as a person. If I were to do over my high school portfolio, I might have put my creative pieces in the beginning because once I hook the reviewer's interest, I still have time to show them I have a strong fundamental understanding of the human figure, of values, etc. But I want the first 5 seconds, the first 10 seconds to be very solid or to be very different from the other applicants. Number three, in terms of coming up with what to draw, it would help to ask yourself what concerns you, like what is important to you, and I would recommend branching out of personal and emotional experience because that's what you have to do as an art student eventually down the road. So showing the reviewer that you have the capacity, that you are, engaged in your community, that you are thinking critically about social issues, about the environment, about sustainability, about culture and race. It could be your culture, your race, it could be your family heritage. It could be about the intersection of being American but something else, being a first generation, being immigrants from somewhere. There's just like many ways to branch off. I feel like I don't want to elaborate too much because I don't want to pigeonhole or like put this whole thing into a box. The idea is that how is what you make going to fit into the world after art school? Because getting into art school is not the end of your journey. It's only the beginning. Trust me. when RISD asks for creative or conceptual work, they are asking to see what you have to say about something. So the first thing you have to do is find that something and be very passionate about it. And I have a feeling that you do have something that you're passionate about. It's just that you're not sure how to start. Start by asking questions. Try to visualize that question into an image. And then when the image is done, you might have already found your answer. What else? Oh, grades. I feel like that's a big one too, right? The portfolio matters a lot more than your GPA, than your test scores. The GPA and test scores do reflect your work ethic, which is really important in art school because art school is very intensive and you really need stamina to pull through, especially foundation year at RISD. But overall, they will definitely be looking at your works and taking that into heavy consideration as opposed to, like your 4.0 or your 2400. If you have 2400 and 4.0 but you can't really draw, you're gonna run into some issues. They may just ask you to reapply like the next year or something, which is what a lot of people do anyway. Like if you don't get accepted this year, like don't be discouraged. As long as you know that like this is what you want, as long as you are certain that you have a passion, you have a drive for it, you just need time to prove yourself or like prove to the school that you have what it takes, then like just apply the next year, like there is no rush. Like there are so many students in undergrad in art school that are not like fresh out of high school. Yeah, so this is my before RISD and after RISD portfolio. I hope that it was insightful or entertaining in some way. I definitely would like to, like give more insight as to like how RISD was or like tips on art school itself, but that's gonna have to be at a later time because my sister is leaving tomorrow for RISD and I don't really want to do that sit down video by myself, so we're gonna wait until we are reunited to talk about it together. I think that'll be more fun. It's pyperbleu after all, not just Lilith. Thank you for listening to me talk. I think I am going to sign off now so I can quickly edit this and put it up for you guys. I wish you the best in your preparation. If you're watching this thinking about applying to RISD or CalArts or Pratt or wherever, let me know if this was helpful and let me know what other questions you may have. And I will see you in the next video. So have a wonderful day or night. Bye!
Now he's on screen.